Welcome back to another edition of Zero Blog 30. Today we have a couple things we're going to talk about. First up, did you guys know that when I read this, it blew my damn mind. Did you know that you could order Rolexes while you were a prisoner of war?
No.
Yeah, you
because
can
why
order
would
them.
you?
Yeah, but you could, and we're going to talk about a fellow that did, and it led up to because he ordered a Rolex, it really helped establish the culture or the scenario in which one of the greatest World War II movies written does not happen without this Rolex.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
so to learn about
excited to talk about that. We're going to recap a little bit of our NASCAR trip, and we're going to check in on some news in the military world, including sleeping.
Oh, are they doing that now?
They're allowed to sleep.
Back in my day.
Kinda.
And we liked it.
Yep. They
never slept.
Yep. Didn't sleep. Speaking of didn't sleep, you slept this weekend for the first time in a long time.
Finally.
Yeah. Kids free. First weekend away. The first night out, everybody went to have like a nightcap. And I said, "Oh, I missed your text." I didn't miss your text. I was in my pajamas, snug as a bug, so excited to get a good 8 hours of sleep at least.
Kate was like running to her hotel room. I can't wait.
Turn the heat up to 78.
Yeah, that is
a psycho move. I'm sorry for using a negative word there, but that is a crazy person move.
No, that's okay. I even put a robe on top of the sheet so I had extra toastiness.
Wait, we're not supposed to say psycho?
I don't know. You never know what you're
Mental
supposed to say these days. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
sorry
fair.
for that offense.
I was a psycho lunatic crazy person in there.
You were, and you also were at the NASCAR race this weekend.
I had so much fun. I always do.
You do
these races. I love it. I love it.
I'll say this about Kate. If you want to go somewhere, if you're going to go somewhere where you're not sure if you're going to have a good time, not saying that's NASCAR, but just Kate's personality in general. If you're going to go somewhere that might stink a little bit like a local fair, you got to bring Kate because she's going to have a good attitude. She's going to grab some food. She's going to do a little dancing around. She's going to bring the mood up.
Well, the fun thing too, especially with NASCAR, is it is like so many of the same people coming back year after year that they establish like a neighborhood in the infield.
Yeah.
There's kids riding around on bicycles. There's like basketball hoops set up and swimming pools, and like everyone is just like, come on over, have a drink, have a whatever, add to our beer bump in the middle of the road. I don't know. I just love everything about it. And I had the best time this weekend. First weekend away in a long time. And I'm so excited that NASCAR is our sponsor this month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a presenting partnership with NASCAR, and I had no idea, but they're actually going to be here in Chicago. When I opened up the ad read,
you had no idea?
I did not know.
You don't read the local news.
I didn't know that. Well, I knew that it was coming, but I didn't know the type that they were going to be doing. Like the type of event.
Road race, dude.
Completely different.
Yeah, they're coming here to Chicago. It's going to be 2 full days of racing and nonstop entertainment. It's the 4th of July weekend, so they're crushing it once again for the military America kind of stuff, which NASCAR always does. But they're going to be going through downtown and through Grant Park.
Yep.
I had no idea. Mm-hmm. Keith Urban, the Chainsmokers, the Black Keys, Lauren Elena.
Lauren Elena.
I don't know who that one is.
Oh, yeah. She's going to crush it.
Yeah.
And the 2024 Chicago Street Race will be the most talked about event of the summer. I know everybody here is super pumped for it. I'm excited to have one. I've never had one in my home turf. I'm buzzing.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Here's my question.
Because
I was fortunate enough to go to the race in Sonoma, and that was obviously very different from the other races that we've been to, but still had a very NASCAR feel to it. How do you think it's going to be? And this isn't the first time they've done it in Chicago, but how do you think it's going to be in a major metropolitan city like Chicago?
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, awesome. I think you get the diehard fans no matter what, who would be at a race in the middle of boondoggle whenever, or here in Chicago, mixed with, I think, races like this bring in a ton of new fans who happen to be in Chicago and are like, yeah, I want to see what this is all about. So I think it's a great way to dip your toe in the pond. Highly recommend it. And don't miss out on the thrill of NASCAR racing through the iconic streets of downtown Chicago. Purchase your tickets today for NASCAR's Chicago Street Race Weekend. We're going to be there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be, I'm excited. I told Cardi that they get to go.
Yeah, I had so much fun.
Yeah.
Also, Charlotte rocks, dude. And it's blowing up. I had no idea how much from last time we were there to it was like 5 years ago to now. Like it is. I loved it. I had a really good time. Also, though, I should not.
You could have been in 29 Palms and without your kids and getting good solid sleep for the first time in months, you would have been like, this place is incredible.
No, there's something special about the home of America's home of racing. Okay. There's something special about it. I should not have had the extra chili dogs at the race.
How many
and
did
then
you
the
have?
next morning, too many that there was a guy sitting a few rows up from us who had like 15. I shit you not. I couldn't stop watching. Then in the morning, I had the cheesy grits covered in sausage and bacon and stuff
Yep.
with several coffees and an apple juice right before I got in the plane.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's
and
quite the
so
recipe.
At 9:05 yesterday morning,
Plane was boarding.
I'm in line to board. I get a text from Kate at 9:05. About to shit my pants, not kidding. How the fuck do they have 3 endless hallways but no bathroom? Please, Jesus. Don't let me leave. Don't let that plane leave without me. Oh my God. I said, I'm boarding
Imagine
now. She
Chaps
said,
is up in the cockpit. Hey, hold on, guys. Can't go yet. Kate's still in the bathroom.
I say, boarding now. She said, shut up. Kill me. Push, devil, is what I said to her.
Yeah.
And she said, someone better shit me some shit right now.
I was in the bathroom. He was on the plane and I was still in the bathroom just going through it all day. And I was going through the ringer. And thank God. But you can attest, I was one of the last people on the plane.
Oh, she was. Came in looking all sweaty and disheveled.
Yeah. So anyway, great weekend down south. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
It was a lot of fun. And so much fun going around with Large and Spider too, because they've really established themselves in that community now. And
yeah,
they're just very popular and crushing it with Rubbin' Is Racing. And they really are not only just doing enjoyable content, but I got the impression that they're very well respected in that community too. They're not just, sitting on a podcast making jokes. They know what they're talking about. And I was fortunate to sit next to Large during the race. And I always say when I go to a sporting event that I'm not overly knowledgeable on, so like hockey or in this case NASCAR, I love sitting next to somebody and then just peppering them with questions, although that person might not enjoy it as much. But I just love, and Large indulged me the whole time and just continues to educate. So shout out to Large and Spider for also being great hosts for us.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was great.
All right, let's get into the story of the show today. Came across this one, I think it was Friday that I came across this story. And I was like, whoa. Like, because there's a lot of things that you know about World War II, but there's so many tiny little nuggets of stories that you're like, I just don't see how that could happen now. And this is one of those stories.
All right, well, let's get into it. Corporal Clive James Nutting was a British soldier who served in the Royal Army Service during World War II. Captured by German forces, he was imprisoned at Stalag Luft III, a POW camp that became infamous for the Great Escape in March of 1944. Nutting was deeply involved in this case, which was one of the most audacious and well-coordinated efforts to break out of a German prison camp during the war. If you don't remember the Great Escape from Stalag Luft, here are some of the greatest obstacles they endured as they planned the escape.
So if you remember, if you see the movie with Steve McQueen, like it looks like a pretty normal prisoner of war camp that there's high barbed wire all the way around. They have like a tunnel system trenched underneath it where so it's supposed to make it where you can't get out. Tall buildings. They have guards up in the guard towers and things like that. A very traditional looking prison setting.
Yeah.
So but there was certain things that happened because you're in war that made the escape a little bit more difficult. So then I went through and found some of the biggest risks that they had.
Yeah, it puts Shawshank Redemption to shame.
Right.
It puts it to shame. Number one big obstacle, tunnel collapse. The tunnels, Tom, Dick, and Harry, were dug using makeshift tools without professional engineering support. This made them highly unstable. The risk of tunnel collapse was significant, which could have resulted in injuries or death of the diggers if there was a failure, because there's no escape. I mean, there's no escape plan. You can't call for help when you're escaping the prison.
Exactly.
You're fucked.
Yep.
And the fear of that alone would probably keep me from doing it. I'd be too much of a. We all saw the lady down in right outside DC who's digging that giant tunnel in her basement. She got shut down because she didn't have the right.
Yeah, I wish they would have let her keep going.
Yeah, you're curious to see what she was up to.
Yeah, just what do you find?
Well, she's building a castle in her yard now. She just got a bunch of rocks.
Oh, okay, good.
Anyway, ventilation issues. The tunnels were long, narrow, and deep, leading to poor ventilation. Lack of fresh air posed a serious risk of suffocation for the prisoners working inside. They had to create a makeshift ventilation system to ensure a supply of breathable air. That's something my dumbass wouldn't even.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, I don't think most people would consider that. You don't think like digging a tunnel. Guys, we better make sure we have adequate ventilation so we can breathe. I would think like, oh, okay, there's just oxygen coming from the back end and I'm fine. When you think about it though, that does make sense that you need additional oxygen in such a small area, but I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, they had that. They also had like getting rid of the soil. Like I
Yeah.
think you've seen that in Shawshank. A lot of these kind of play out in Shawshank too, where you had to go get the rocks from the wall, and then he would kind of flick them out of his pants whenever he was out
Like
on the
crop
yard.
dusting.
He
Crop
sort
dusting
of,
dirt.
yeah. So they did that. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to escape, you can't be hitting pickaxes into hard soils because the guards are going to hear you can't see at night whenever you're doing a lot of this. The constant stress that you would be under if you were trying to do
'Cause
this type of thing.
If you got caught doing this, you probably all get lined up and executed on the spot.
Oh, without a
Oh,
doubt.
yeah.
I mean, they used to like at this same prison camp was one of the main reason why they went. Like for anything out of the ordinary, they would line you up against the wall and they would shoot you.
Yeah. Just crazy. Like, yeah, the stress and anxiety of that would make me insane.
But the biggest one that they really had to focus on was the timing. Like they needed to make sure that they were doing it whenever the guards were changing shifts, that they had to be fast, that they had to know like what time of night it was, how many more people can they go. And that's what this story really centers around.
Yeah.
So I put in our sheet and I'm going to post it on socials, but there's a sheet. Do you see it, Con? There's a painting that's here.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
guy in question, the dude that ends up getting the Rolex, he's the one that made these kind of doodles. Like,
Okay.
so the dude that escaped made this doodle, and I'll try to describe it to you the best I can for the audio listeners. So it looks like a really well done, like third graders picture. There's an American troop that is leaning on a telephone wire that has scissors in his hands, and he's cutting the point of it is that he's cutting the communication lines for the Germans. They have the German Air Forces overhead. There's a motorbike that they stole to get inside to cut these communication lines. And now we're going to show you how they use the Rolex, essentially.
So this guy Nutting is coordinating. He was like the leader of these 3 tunnels,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now it's finally time to escape. And like the ending was saying there, like timing was everything with this because you were going to get lined up and shot.
Yeah. So and then before we actually say how it happened, I think it actually go ahead. Kate.
So Nutting's Rolex watch, provided by Hans Willdorf, the founder of Rolex, was not merely a luxury item, but crucial in the execution of the escape plan. Wilsdorf had a policy of sending Rolex watches to Allied prisoners with the understanding that they would pay for them after the war. This act was both a morale booster and a practical aid for the POWs. It's hard to imagine like sending say someone was kidnapped by the Taliban, a troop was sending them like a Rolex watch and the Taliban letting them have it.
Yeah.
It's hard to...
And this is even, I think it's more different than that. Like, because you can't now, whenever I needed a pair of Ray-Bans, I needed some new sunglasses, probably Shady Rays. Yeah. So I needed a new pair of Shady Rays whenever I was deployed before that business started in 2007. So I needed something. So you go online and you order it online and it ships to an FPOAP address where you can get it anywhere you want. This was still 1940s. You couldn't do that. So they had to write a handwritten letter. How the fuck they got the address, I'll never know. But they had to write the Rolex company requesting whatever they want, and then they would bill it back to you. You would send the money to Rolex, and then they would in turn ship it. So it was like a 4-step process. You had to tell them what they wanted. They sent you what you needed to get them, and then you sent it back. Well, this guy sent it, and he was like, hey, I really want one of these watches, but you didn't have any money at the time when you're a prisoner of war. So they said Rolex started to send them without payment and be like, oh, it's essentially a Rolex IOU. Can you imagine Rolex doing that fucking now to a lance corporal?
No shot.
This guy wasn't an officer. He was a corporal.
Yeah, but those are IOUs. That's better than money.
True. A good watch was key, and they definitely needed Rolexes because a bunch of the guys digging these tunnels, it wasn't just Nutting, got Rolex watch sent to them. The escape plan required precise timing for various activities from tunnel digging to the actual night of the escape. Nutting used his Rolex to synchronize the watches of the escape team members, and synchronization was critical as it ensured that each phase of the plan was executed with exact timing. So if one watch was a little faster than another watch, they were fucked.
Right.
So they needed like the best watch possible. For example, the diggers working on the tunnels needed to coordinate their shifts meticulously to avoid detection and maximize efficiency. Nutting's Rolex allowed the team to organize these shifts seamlessly, ensuring they worked around the clock without overlap or gaps. Another critical use of the Rolex in timing routines and patrols of the German guards. Understanding their routines helped them keep make sure they weren't detected, follow their patterns, know when to go, when not to go. On the night of the escape, Nutting's Rolex was indispensable. The plan involved 200 prisoners attempting to flee through a tunnel, a small ass tunnel. Precise timing was crucial to prevent congestion, to ensure each prisoner had a chance to get through the tunnel without causing a delay that could result in detection. I get nervous when I'm taking too long in a buffet line. Imagine you're shimmying too slow through the tunnel.
To use the restroom.
Yeah. Or example that we know, Kate too, I guess, because she's a lady, so I'm excluding her a little bit from this one. Whenever you have a dog leg left and you can't see somebody, you don't know where they're going to be at. That's why
or a hill.
You don't know where they're going to be at. So that's the reason why you have tea times 8 minutes apart. So you more than likely going to be out of the way.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
totally. Nutting used his Rolex to ensure that each escaper exited the tunnel at the right moment, maintaining a steady flow and reducing the risk of discovery. This level of coordination was vital. Nutting's involvement in the Great Escape and use of his Rolex watch illustrate the extraordinary ingenuity and resilience of the prisoners. Despite the constant threat of detection, tunnel collapse, all that stuff, it symbolized hope for the prisoners to regain their freedom. Well, I'm an idiot. How did they all get out?
Yeah, so they ended like The Great Escape was a movie that happened because it worked.
Yeah, I guess
they got out. He was eventually captured and killed like after.
Fuck.
But he did get out and use the Rolex. So shout out to that guy for using the Rolex. But it's fascinating to me that that's the way that it worked, that they did that. And Rolex, maybe the best branding ever, because after this happened, they switched to Rolex were putting out their advertisement were the same type of propaganda posters from World War II. But it would have like a pilot that was looking at his watch, like to make sure that everything was good, and it was a Rolex watch.
Yeah, we won the war with these motherfucking watches. Buy one.
Maybe
that'd be a good.
So this watch, this actual watch was up for auction a few years ago.
No way. Okay.
Guess how much it went for?
Ooh.
Well, I'll say this before we get into that. The actual watch that's just the same type sold recently, to give you an idea, in good condition for $39,000.
No shit. Okay.
But at the time they purchased it, it was $2,500 from Rolex.
But Nutting's watch specifically?
This particular watch.
$1.4 million.
Cons?
$189,000.
$8.9 million.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Wow.
World War II heads will fucking pay, man.
Yeah.
They will pay.
Well, also there's a massive industry for Rolexes, because there's so many Rolexes that won't get made anymore. It's very much a collector's item. There's a whole niche market for it. So it's not that surprising to hear. And then
you have the two combined that rich old people really love. Fancy watches in World War II.
Yeah.
It's like the old double whammy.
Sprinkle a little Metamucil on that thing. And you are set.
Yeah. Make that, have that thing set your dinner reservation for 4:30. You're ready to go. I'm not going to shit on people for eating early.
No.
Can I tell you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our dinner reservations these days, usually between 4 and 4:30.
Oh, wow.
And even before Maggie, like Alex likes to eat on the earlier side, and I just don't care, so I'll go whenever. But now with her and just timing up bedtime and everything, recently a couple asked us to meet them for dinner at 8:00, and that was a tough endeavor.
That's a NASCAR this weekend. The dinner reservations were for 8:00, and it made me feel like I was a young wild card.
It made me feel hungry.
Yeah. Oh.
I didn't want to wait that long.
What's the latest dinner reservation you've ever had in your life?
Probably 8:00.
I'd say like 9:45 ish.
I had a dinner reservation one time for 10:30 in the evening.
That's crazy.
Ooh.
At a steakhouse in
Very
Manhattan.
Cosmopolitan.
Yeah. That's just one of those things.
It is.
Indeed.
All right, we'll do a little news roundup. The main thing that we got today, Con sent it over. Staff duty, you're allowed to sleep, right, Cons?
No, I don't know that it's so much you're allowed to sleep as they're just making sure that it's not like a suck fest for 24 hours. And it was, 18th Airborne Corps essentially just wants their soldiers to sleep. So there was a memo that went out for soldiers on staff duty to get the required rest without leaving the staff duty desk empty. Under the guidance, the staff duty NCO will develop a rotation plan for soldiers to get sleep. So the staff duty officer can also fill in if needed for the schedule to work. And this policy came from Major David Nixon within the 18th Airborne Corps. He brought the idea to Lieutenant General Chris Donahue, who's the commander of 18th Airborne Corps, who approved the idea. So essentially, we just got some.
Remarkable that it's 2024 and they're like, you know what? People should sleep.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Let's write an article about it. We're going to let people sleep.
Yeah, just more anything that chips away at super unnecessary, crazy stuff that we've done forever is cool to me.
Because I think so often people view staff duty as you're just sitting at a desk and you don't really need to do much. So why would you need your brain to be firing on all cylinders? But then God forbid something happens and you got some person who hasn't slept for a day and they're all groggy and they make another mistake on top of whatever's going on. It just makes too much sense, especially when you factor in that it's multiple people doing it. So it's very easy to rotate out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's exactly why you need some counseling this time. And if you do, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, because when life gets so fast, it's important to take a moment to celebrate your wins and make adjustments for the rest of the year. Therapy can help you take stock of your progress and set achievable goals in the next months. I mean, we've talked about it for years on this show, that going to a therapist is basically like going to a brain dentist. You're never really done with it. You got to get your checkups, your cleanups, all that kind of stuff with your brain going. I don't think I know I wouldn't be sitting in this seat, or maybe sitting in any seat, if I didn't have therapy to help me get through some of my issues, some of the things that I've been struggling with. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. You need to take a moment for yourself to visit betterhelp.com/0 to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0. All right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. But before we do that, I had the office answer questions today about acronyms. Well, first off, Cons, what does NASA stand for?
Oh, man. I actually don't know.
Oh, he's Googling it.
I am. National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Yeah,
I had to think about that. I didn't know that.
So we
But I
had
did and forgot. I don't know.
So we have the Barstool Dozen trivia that's coming to Chicago too. They're having a big tournament. So sometimes during the day, they'll have Danny Conrad, one of our social guys, will come around and ask them the questions that are in the Dozen show. And so after he did that, I went around and asked people what the acronym ARMY stood for. The responses were great because it's not an acronym.
Army's not. I was going to say, I was like, wait, Army's not an acronym, right?
I look forward to seeing those.
But some of the answers were amazing.
Did anyone know it was not an acronym?
Yeah. Ohio Tate.
Oh, good for him. That's not surprising, teacher.
And then, guess whose brain it absolutely shut down? The question.
Mickey Smokes.
Mincy.
Oh, Mincy, of course. Yeah.
You could hear the Windows sound play.
Yeah.
It was just like, nope, I got nothing going on there at all. So yeah, those are some pretty good answers.
Be on the lookout for that. I did not know the NASA one. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I suck at acronyms.
I thought it was air. I didn't get aerospace. The rest of it I got. But
there's only one that really matters, and it's JJ did tie buckle.
That's right. What does that mean?
Justice, judgment, determination, intrepidness.
That's right.
That's it.
All right, Cons, we'll start with you. What do you got?
Yeah.
I just, again, thank you to our partners there at NASCAR. Had a lot of fun at the race, and it really is impressive that they go to such lengths to honor the military on Memorial Day weekend. I think, all the professional sports leagues try to do something, whether it's their season falls Memorial Day or Veterans Day. And sometimes it can just feel like, I don't want to say trite, but just like they're checking a box. Whereas, with NASCAR, they hosted the Gold Star families. And then when they completely alter how they run a race in an effort to honor service members who have passed, I think that's incredible. So for those who don't know or didn't watch the race, after a certain amount of laps, they had all of the drivers come into the pit road, shut off their engines, and do a moment of silence for all fallen service members. Now, any other normal NASCAR race, the engine doesn't get turned off until you wreck or finish the race. So there's just noise the entire time. So for them to completely alter how they run a race, and certainly, I'm not a NASCAR aficionado, but, Larger Spider could tell you something of that nature can really alter, how you're driving, whether you're doing well or doing poorly and coming out of that pause. So just, I think it was cool to see NASCAR, kind of put their money where their mouth is, and they really truly do believe in honoring our service members, and that was on full display this weekend. So just always very cool, and they're just so hospitable to us specifically. They're hospitable to everybody, but I always feel
the NASCAR
so
staff
warm
is
and
incredibly
welcome.
genuine.
Yeah.
They're very genuine behind it. It's not like a tacky, empty thing. They like really
Mhm.
mean it. So yes, I agree. That was super cool.
Yep.
That it?
Yep.
Yesterday, bouncing off of the Memorial Day thing, when I came back, I had a bunch of people over for like a barbecue last night, dinner, grilling out and shit like that. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, dude, do you want to give a toast to people that you knew who passed away?"
Mhm.
And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, I do." And so there was another buddy that is a ranger that lives close by, and I stood up and said a few things, and then we just went through back and forth like names of people that we knew who were killed. And the people that were at the barbecue, like I would say a name and they would take a sip, and then I would
Mhm.
say another name and they would take a sip, and we would cheers to each one of those people. And it was maybe the most pure like Memorial Day moment, just like with my family and friends,
Yeah.
nobody else around, just real quick, like 5-minute thing, not
Yeah.
even 5 minutes, probably like a minute long. And it was cathartic as shit.
Yeah.
Like it really was, like having my friends in that setting saying the names that mean so much to me.
Mhm.
It was a really, really nice moment on Memorial Day.
That it is so important. Like, it's not every day you get to talk about them,
Right.
and get to share their stories or little things about them, and to see your community like actually care and want to know. I think it means a lot. I think it's that is really cool.
Because I think sometimes like talking about that can feel a little bit like you're being self-aggrandizing, like you don't
Yeah.
want to be like, it's not like a look at me type
Right.
of situation, but you kind of have to. Like if you don't have stories like ours, like being directly firsthand knowing these people that have lost their lives, I don't think it comes off as genuine. Like it's one thing if you read a name, it's another thing to hear about a name from
Yeah.
somebody that they actually meant something to you.
Yes,
Right.
I
Maybe
agree.
a snippet about who they were or something,
Mm-hmm.
a story. Like so often when people ask me what my bracelet is about, my KA bracelet, and my buddy PK, they always follow that up with, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to bring up bad memories." And I'm like, "No. The whole point of me
That's why I
wearing
wear
this
the
bracelet,
bracelet. Yeah.
so you asked me about this person, and I can tell you who they were or a
Mm-hmm.
story about them."
Well, why
So
don't you go ahead and do it, Cons? Tell us
I've told
about
this
PK.
story. I've told this story before, but it's my favorite story about him, and I think it just perfectly encompasses who he was as a person. So, Andrew Pedersen Keel, he was a special forces officer. He was killed in Afghanistan, 11 March 2013. So over 10 years ago now, and we were in the same working group junior year of college for an IT class. Now, I had IT classes that were requirements. I would not have chosen them on my own, and it was brutal. I was not efficient or proficient with IT in any shape or form. So we're sitting around one of our rooms with our group one night, and I'm just going on and on about, geez, I got to get a good grade in this class, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, and just moaning and groaning and genuinely just being annoying. So finally, PK stops me. He goes, "Connor, dude, just shut up, man. You know I'm going to get you like a B or a B plus. Just stick with me. You'll be fine." I'm like, "All right, cool. And then he goes back to doing whatever it is he's doing on the project because I wasn't doing anything. And I hear him mumble under his breath, probably more like a C minus, but whatever. But
Yeah.
sure enough, I got that B, and he took care of me, made sure I got that B, and kept my grade point average where it needed to be. But just a very selfless person, somebody who no one ever had a bad thing to say about. And I think that's rare, especially in this day and age. Where I think I see fewer and fewer people that are just genuinely loved and accepted and praised universally. So he was a great guy, still is. So
Yeah.
And Kate, I saw you put up something about your friend Coffee.
Yeah. Keaton Coffee and Derek Hernandez were two guys. Now, does anyone else keep, this sounds morbid, a list going in your notes app of
Yeah.
since then? And the list unfortunately keeps getting longer. But I also want to talk really quick about when I very first got to the fleet. it was just me and my buddy Chris, and 1st MP Battalion had just been stood up. It was like brand spanking new. And so there was only like 20 people tops in the whole entire battalion,
Yeah.
which battalions have hundreds of people. It was like
Right.
brand new, teeny tiny. And we were the first little detachment right away got sent off to Iraq. And so when my buddy Chris and I got to the fleet from MP school, we were like the only 2 boots there. Me, my buddy Chris, my buddy Pulver. And one of the first people to greet us was this Staff Sergeant Isley. And when you first get to the fleet, sometimes I feel like certain Marines like get off on scaring you and treating you like shit, and like a Japs type. And I was intimidated. I didn't know what to expect. And I was greeted by this Staff Sergeant Isley, who, I say this like in the most loving way, was like, and especially when you get to the fleet too, you're still so new. You have this idea of all Marines in your head are like the commercial and they're intense and whatever. He was goofy and lighthearted and so kind, and was like, you know what? You guys are new to California. Let's do PT on the beach this morning. We'll go for just an easy run, give you a lay of the land. Like, just so kind and welcoming, and made what could have been like a really tough transition to the fleet. It like brought a ray of sunshine and like a good peek into the Marine Corps for me. Like, oh, wow. Like, not everybody's like this scary, intense drill instructor person. And he was one of those leaders that he never had to yell to get respect. And he wasn't like a super ripped, like hardo, he was like kind of like, I say dorky with like love, but he knew it. He like embraced that about himself, and was just kind of one of my favorite leaders that I had in the Marine Corps. And he passed away last week. And unfortunately, I think 45 years old, and his funeral is today. And it's in Yuma, Arizona, in the middle of, it's a tough place to get to.
Yeah.
And some Marines from my unit from around the country sent me a picture last night, all in a car together in the desert, heading his way. And I think it's one of those things that like, it really is a bond, like not just the Marines, but I'm sure you have it with your friends too. But I don't talk to them as often as I should, but I'm so glad that those bonds just can never be broken.
Yep.
And that when it's my time, I know that they'll be there for me too, and for my family. And there's just really something about that I know, like I have like I don't rip on the Marine Corps or the military, but like there's stuff we roll our eyes at and we're like, blah, blah, blah.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, especially after yesterday and thinking about my buddies, and Coffee and Hernandez were best friends and they died on different deployments. Coffee actually had a tattoo for Hernandez on him when he died.
Wow.
But there's just a bond there that can never be broken, that makes me so proud to be a Marine more than anything else. And I just really
and it has
felt
nothing
that.
to do with the Marine Corps. It's just it's the Marines, like and I'm sure you're the same way, Cons. Like, it's not the institution of the Army. It's not the institution of the Navy. It's the sailors. It's the soldiers, Marines. It's all those folks that really make the big difference. And I think you're totally right. Yesterday, when like 4:00 and I got a phone call, and the first part of the person's name was Corporal, was how it shaped like in my phone. And I was like, I kind of wish this phone call would be at like 11:00 at night, so I'd be drunk and like really get the lay down of what was going on.
Yeah.
But it was a real quick, like, dude called me and he was like, "Hey, what's going on, Staff Sergeant? I haven't talked to you in a long time." And I was like, "I'm doing good, brother. How are you?" And just catching up, telling me he's got like 2 new kids, and like hearing how these people are doing years later is just so great.
Yep.
And that's what I liked about the NASCAR trip too. And it wasn't necessarily because of like seeing it. It was the questionnaire that I got. So Chris's name was on one of the cars. He was on the 71 car this week. And they sent out a little questionnaire asking you questions about the service member that they were honoring. And I got to go through like, what are some of the things that Chris liked. And I was like, well, we like playing video games. We like going golfing together. We like hanging out on the beach with our families, taking our kids to the park and shit like that. And it brought me back to that time period, seeing him bounce out of his house that was next door to mine. His son Jeremy with his super curly hair bouncing over and hanging out with Kelsey with her super curly red hair and blue eyes, like just being buddies and hanging out. And I think yesterday was the first time in a while, like in this job, like you talk about different service members, you talk about this and that, but it was probably the most personal Memorial Day
Mhm.
for me, where I didn't talk about it much online. I didn't do any of that. Just kind of ate it myself, and
Yeah.
it was
It's
nice.
interesting you say that because people post very nice things and very nice tributes, and I was thinking to myself, geez, do I need to post a tweet or an Instagram post about somebody? And I just didn't feel right. I don't know. For the first time in a while, I just kind of like I didn't need to be performative, and not that those other people's
No, I
posts
know
are
what you're saying.
performative, but
Yeah.
right, like I don't know why this year of all years I kept coming back to it
Same here
and
for me too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That-
didn't go the other way. I don't know.
And I didn't
And
say anything until about 5 o'clock. I posted something
Yeah.
like right when people were about to start coming over. I had the first beer by myself, just like kind of sitting there thinking. I was like, man, Chris was a great fucking dude.
yeah.
yeah. And Kate, something I was thinking about when you were telling your story about your buddy there, I always find it fascinating, and I think it speaks such volumes about a person when you can see their individual personality come out in an organization that preaches uniformity, that preaches falling in line and just towing the line and more or less being quiet and just doing your job. When you can see someone's personality come out, still, maintaining regs
Yeah.
and following order, but when their personality can still come out, I think that makes for a very special individual.
And I think that it made me go, okay, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
If he's respected and he fits in here and he's a goofball,
yeah.
it was like I saw myself a little bit and I was like, oh, all right, somebody like me can make it in here. If he can, I'm going to be all right. And yeah.
And there's certain things in stories that come up, and like that one, Kay, is a perfect example of shit that I wish I would have been more like when I was in. Like, because I would have been, if you would have asked me when I first got out, shit, probably 5 years ago, maybe even longer than that, were you a good leader? My answer would have been yes. But I think that there was a lot of things that I really lacked in that. Like, I very disciplinarian and shit like that, but there was a whole aspect of leadership that I completely missed. And I wish I would have been more like that in a lot of ways.
More approachable.
Like more approachable, more like mentoring, more in a different type of way.
But you probably, I mean, those examples, like my staff sergeant, that was kind of rare and hard to come by.
Very
I got
rare.
lucky. I got a lot of great staff NCOs in my unit. I just like lucked out, but it wasn't super common. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Great leaders, but like,
and
not
I would have,
that
and
kind.
I guaranteed I would have viewed that as weak.
Right. Yeah.
Like when I was in, I would have been like, this guy, what is he
No,
doing?
you would have loved to be a sauce.
I probably would have loved him. Yeah.
But it's interesting. The episode before this, it was like almost like Memorial Day kind of snuck up on us.
Yes.
And now I want to sit and marinate in it because it, like, you're right. There is all this like not fanfare around it, but like it kind of gets like, I don't know. And then when you actually sit in silence with it and like kind of marinate in it by yourself at the end of the day, and we really do reflect and obviously really do care. And I don't know. Yeah.
And I think just in general, I've felt, I think we've talked about it, just being honest with the listener. Like sometimes you get disillusioned, like you get kind of burnt out on talking about certain subjects. You get burned out on hearing terrible things, reading deeply about what's happening in Gaza or Ukraine and Afghanistan, Iraq. Like we've been doing this and reading it in and out. So there's really no week that goes by that we don't escape it. So I feel like sometimes in the last probably year, there's been moments where I'm like, damn, man, this just fucking sucks reading this news all the time. And then you get taken back to, because I filled out that fucking form where it starts to put not fresh faces, but like a fresh feel on, I guess, humanity. I don't know how to really say what I'm saying, but I think you kind of pick up the vibe and put it down a little bit where you're just loving the people, you know, like the people that are behind the rank and name and who they actually were as people and not some last action war hero.
And I think as you hit new phases in life, like as your kids are getting older and as mine are like brand new and whatever, and at certain phases in life, you can't help but think about where they would be at this same phase in life now.
Yeah, like when you put yourself in the position of those mothers that you went to combat with, like you went as thinking as a 20-year-old by yourself, fiance or however old you were, 21, and
now as a mom, I'm like, oh my god, I like, holy shit, that's insanely like salute.
And now I have a kid that's almost 19.
Yeah.
Right. I think about now, I mean, Gold Star families and thinking about putting your child in harm's way and
Mm-hmm.
knowing multiple Gold Star families as a parent now, that hits very differently. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt it at the race on Sunday, right before when they were doing all the different performances with the choirs and such. When the one soldier, I don't know, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was a soldier or Marine, but when they played taps and you're just quiet and allowed for reflection,
Mm-hmm.
similar to what you two are talking about right now. And I've just been so caught up in life, moving, baby, everything, adjusting it, and it's important to take that time.
Yeah.
And I think everyone does it differently, but I do think it's important for me, at least, I'll speak for myself, to take that time by myself to think about it.
Yep. And last thing I'll say, at the race, it was the only time I got, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, I don't get choked up nearly as much. I don't cry nearly as much as I used to.
Oh.
Right? Like,
No, you
I'm
don't.
trying to think the last time you did, and maybe it's been a while.
It's been a while. Like, I'm on a new medicine, so it's apparently that helps. Like, well, not
Better
new, but
help.
since that has really happened. But I got choked up walking down the track the other day. I don't think you guys saw it, but there was a family that was standing off kind of by themselves with the car, and it was very clear that it was their relative that had his name or her name on the windshield, and they were standing there with like a flag with their service member's name on it and like his rank, and it was a family of like 6 that were taking a picture in front of the car, and I was like, yep.
Yeah.
Like, having that remembrance of somebody that you lost, and even if it's something that you would consider in 10 years to be a small gesture, it wasn't to them.
No.
It was huge. And some of those names, and I was glad that it wasn't just recent names. Some of them were names of people that were killed in Vietnam or in World War II and throughout the entire landscape of service for the country. And I thought, that's the way it should be done.
Yeah.
It should be privately with your family, taking a moment to really think about what they meant to you, and having other people see that name has got to be like really freeing, I guess. I don't know how to say
Yes,
it.
no, you're right. I think it's a few things. I think it's a sense of pride. I think it's a sense of joy, even that name is being spoken and being remembered. I think it's a Hemingway quote that says, "A man dies twice: once when he takes his last breath, and once his name is mentioned for the last time." So to say those names and keep them alive, I think is very important. I can't speak to those families, but I have to imagine that's very important to hear the stories.
Well, especially cool for those families if that particular service member had a ton of speeding tickets.
Oh yeah,
and now they're on the hood of a race car.
Yeah.
That'd be extra cool. You gotta hope that's the case.
Right,
They like to go fast.
Yep. Well, if you probably listened to the whole show, at the beginning of the show, we were really kind of just scrambling for shit to talk about because there's not a whole lot of news that comes out about the military whenever
Rolex.
it's the 96.
We were actually angling for free Rolexes.
Yeah. So story. If you're a Rolex guy, hit us
yeah.
up.
Hey, Rolex. I wouldn't mind one.
I'd rather have a brick watch anyway.
That's right.
I already have a brick. That's the thing. Company man through and through. I have a brick.
Right.
I'm just trying to increase my collection.
Yeah, I think we all do. Do you have one?
Yes, I do.
I do too. And your face cons. All right, we'll be back next week. Sound the retreat.
It's very cathartic, guys. Thank you.